Right, everybody, it's 13:45, time to start the meeting, but unfortunately we're not quorate. It requires 5 members to be present to be quorate. There's only 4 of us. I believe at 10 o'clock we can wait for 10 minutes, so I'm going to pause for 10 minutes or until we are quorate. Thank you. If you're listening, Matthew, you can be here in 9 minutes. That'll be great.
Good afternoon and welcome to this meeting of the Licensing Committee. My name is Clyla Perry, the Committee Clerk. Please note the public element of this meeting is being live streamed and recorded, and those participating in the meeting have given consent to their inclusion. The recording will be uploaded to the City Corporation's website for up to 1 civic year. I'll now hand over to the Chairman.
Thank you, Town Clerk, and welcome. Unfortunately, we're not quorate at the moment. So what we're going to do is we believe that at least one other member is on their way. So what we're going to do is after the initial introduction, we're going to go to the items which are for information only. We'll deal with those. And then once we're quorate, we'll come back to the regular order for the items that are for decision. So that's the way we are going to proceed. But first, we have on our panel some new members. So what I thought we'd do, just briefly starting with David, is just briefly give a quick introduction of ourselves as we go around the tables clockwise, and then we'll all know who we each are and our roles. So David, would you like to kick off?
Yes. Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon. I'm David Sales. I am the Common Councillor for Aldgate Ward I've been on this committee for the last 3 years, 3.5 years.
Good afternoon, Brendan Barnes, member for Farringdon Within. I think I've been on the committee about the same time as you, David, about 3 years.
Good afternoon, Shamapti Bakshi, common consider in the Portuguese community. Sorry.
John Fletcher, Chair of the Committee, Deputy Alderman for the Ward of Port Soken. I've been on the committee for 7 years now.
My name is Kyla Perry. I'm the clerk for this committee and I just joined the corporation in November. Thank you.
I'm Aggie Minnis. I'm the licensing manager, and I think I've been here about 15 years. I'm Rachel Pye, Assistant Director of Public Protection. I oversee licensing, and again, I'm here for 20 years.
I'm Jenny Hall. I'm the inspector for the City of London Police licensing team. I've been in post for 3 months, but 22 years in policing.
Joshua Gauchi, one of the City of London Police licensing officers, and I have been in post for just over a year now.
Hello everyone, I'm Gavin Stemmer. I'm the Director of Port Health and Public Protection.
Hello, I'm Jenny Pitcairn. I'm a Finance Business Partner in the Chamberlain's Department.
Sadari Pereira, I'm the Comptroller and City Solicitor.
I am Jo Hill, Business Planning and Compliance Manager, working across the Environment Department.
Right, thank you everybody. So, Town Clerk, what's our first? We do apologies and then we'll go on with item 8.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. At item 1, we have apologies. So in advance, I did receive apologies from the Deputy Chair, James Tunbridge, Peter Dunphy, Sushil Saluja and Prem Goyal. I can see online we've got Kerry Wilkins and Matthew. Oh, Matthew is on his way to the meeting. And so there are several other apologies that I should note. Yes. Yeah. Should we move on to item 2, members' declarations?
No, let's.
Item 6. Thank you, Chair. Apologies, we're moving on to item. Thank you. We'll move back to item 2. So that's members' declarations. Would any member like to make one now? No? Thank you. So we'll move to item 3. So this is the public minutes of the meeting held on Thursday, 10 July 2025. This is on page 5 of your agenda and is to be agreed.
I didn't chair this meeting. I wasn't well, and James Tunbridge, my deputy, wasn't here either. So Marianne Fredericks chaired it. So I did watch it online, but I don't know if anybody's got any comments, first of all, on accuracy. Anything to say? No. And yes, Brendan.
Got a matter arising, can I?
Yes, a matter I was going to say. If you have any matters arising in the lock cupboard, then please.
Can't see it now, but we were talking about Tokyo Hit. I was wondering if there'd been an update on that since the committee meeting.
Would you like to speak to that? Tokyo Hit.
My understanding is that the appeal has fallen away. I think that was due to the planning permission and so on, but they've withdrawn their application.
Thank you. Any other matters arising? Good, so I can get Marianne to sign those off. Thank you, Town Clerk.
Thank you. Next at item 4, we have the Environment Department High Level Business Plan 2026 to 2030. This is for decision on page 11 of your agenda.
I think, Joanna, can you speak to that?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So this is the Environment Department's high-level business plan, and it's presented to your committee for approval of the elements that are within the remit of the licensing committee. So they're set out on page 24 of the agenda pack in red fonts if you have the electronic copy. There is only a small proportion of the whole department that relates to licensing in this business plan. So we've supplemented that with Appendix B, which is the licensing services priorities for 26-27, to give more information and more detail on those.
Thank you, Jenny. Yes, I'd like to commend you on highlighting in red, because obviously most of this paper doesn't belong to us. So I'd like members, if we could refrain it, or keep any comments to the relevant parts that are in red. Can I also say how useful I found Annex B? I think this is a marvellous list, and it's certainly going to be a guide to me as we go through the next year of the things that we've got to deal with, look to, and it's like a tick list that we can look at for each meeting and see what we're achieving. So that's where it is. Very impressed. Thank you very much. And members, do you have any comments or questions? Town Clerk. Oh, sorry, that's to agree. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Next at item 5, we have the Revenue Budgets 2026-2027 report. This is for decision on page 31 of your agenda.
It's Jenny Pitcairn. Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, this report sets out the proposed budget for the forthcoming financial year 2026-27 for your approval. The proposed budget totals £414,000, and that has been prepared within the resource envelope allocated to the Executive Director of the Environment. Changes from the 2025-26 budget are set out in Table 2 on page 33. We're to take any questions, Chair.
Yes, I went through it separately. I'm content that this is balanced and we're not likely to have any callback from PNR or anybody else on the amount they're allocating to us. So as far as I'm concerned, I can recommend it to members unless you have any questions. Or yes, Brendan.
Thank you, Chair. One question. I think I've asked the same question last time. To round our income, I see all our costs are going up, which doesn't everything go up, but our income isn't going up. Why is that? Why is the income the same?
Broadly speaking, the number of premises are relatively static overall. So the number of fees we can charge are similarly so. And the majority of our income comes from premises licensing, for which the fees are nationally set and haven't been changed for several years. That's the main reason.
I was pretty sure that's the same answer as last time. So I think I also sound a bit like Groundhog Day. What are we doing to lobby? Because it doesn't seem fair that our costs are going up, our income is not going up. I'm sure this is the same for all licensing authorities. But what do we know what's happening at a remembrance level to try and make this case? I mean, 7 years is a very long time, and costs have gone up a lot.
Chairman, if I may answer that. I mean, there isn't a national lobbying movement at the moment. However, the government did put out a call for evidence last October on various licensing reforms. And one of the questions was whether there should be an uplift in licensing fees. And that went out to all licensing authorities across the country. One of the recommendations that came out of that call for evidence is that there should be a review. However, that needs legislative change, and there isn't any parliamentary time set for that at this point.
So what we're looking at here is an ongoing uplift in the amount of money that will have to come from city funds in order to balance our books, and there is nothing sitting here in committee that we can do about it. I'm looking. Okay, I mean, unless we have a member of P&R who take it up P&R, but I don't think even they can do anything. I'm looking at members. Yeah, stuck with it. Okay, thank you. Yes, please, David. I'm looking for ideas. Anything you can give to help.
No, I'm not. I'm just trying to understand the recharges. I think you mentioned the city fund, but what is the City Bridge Foundation for Bridges Enforcement Offsetting? What does that actually?
I can answer that, Chairman. So there's some work that we undertake on behalf of the City Bridge Foundation. So we supply 2 licensing officers which provide patrols for all of the city bridges, and that's specifically to deal with the issues of illegal street trading on and around the bridges. They also have picked up over recent years any of the other work that that is caused by issues on the bridges, such as antisocial behaviour, graffiti, and some of the more humanitarian work that they need to undertake. So that's really a piece of work that we do on behalf of City Bridge Foundation that they pay for and we supply.
Anything else on that item? Disappointing, I know, but anyway, thank you. Town Clerk.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just confirm that that item is agreed?
Sorry. Decision, yes. Agreed. Thank you. Thank you, Town Clerk.
Thank you. Next, at item 6, we have the Tobacco and Vapes Bill. This is for information at page 37 of your agenda.
And although this is for information, I'm sure you've read it, because this is so new and so significant, I have asked Rachel to speak to it. So over to you, Rachel. Thanks.
Thank you, Chairman. Just by way of short introduction, this report outlines the provisions of the Tobacco and Vapes Bills and any implications for the city. It really introduces something that's really quite groundbreaking, particularly in terms of public health. So that's essentially ensuring that the next generation can never legally buy cigarettes. So there's a huge sort of public health impact to this bill. So very specifically for the City of London and licensing authorities generally, it introduces basically a retail licensing regime for the sale of tobacco, vapes and nicotine products. There's a 2-tier approach, so there's going to be a personal license aspect to it and also a premises license aspect to it. And while some of the details are yet to be known because they'll be part of regulations that will be introduced in due course, it's likely that we'll be administering applications, renewals, suspensions and revocations. It looks to be that the enforcement aspects of that will be with our Trading Standards Authority. So we've already started to meet with and talk about how we'll work in partnership with both Trading Standards and Public Health on this, so City and Hackney Public Health Authority. So it's really just to give a heads up of the work ahead. This is looking to receive royal assent sometime early in the new year, so we're just waiting for that. And as and when we know a little bit more about it, we can update members. We've already started an intelligence piece just to understand exactly how many of these establishments we might have in the city. Numbers are looking at about 65 at the moment, but we will need a boots on the ground approach because we do know that tobacco and vapes particularly are sold in establishments that you may not expect, so barbers for example, and cobblers that we've found as we've been going about.
Thank you, Rachel. This is clearly going to be quite a body of work, bringing in new regulations, integrating it, enforcing it. So pre-warned and thank you for the groundwork that you're doing already. Really over to members for questions and comments. Do we have any? Thank you, Brendan. Yep.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick comment. I was speaking with Claire Callan-Day the other day. I hadn't realised that the legislation at the moment in terms of smoke-free areas only relates to tobacco smoke. And actually you can vape in an enclosed space as much as you like. And I was quite shocked when I realised that, but I know that that's going to be hopefully put right in this legislation, because I think in enclosed areas, and there are a number of them in the city, you really don't want people in there smoking or vaping.
Yep, that's right. So usually it would be various companies' policies and landowners' policies to suggest that you can't vape within their premises. But I think legally, as you say, hopefully this should put that right.
Joanna.
Thank you, Chair. Just a question in relation to the children element, and if there is any sort of intersectional overlaps with some of the work that might be happening across our schools. Because just as a governor of some of our schools, the vaping is becoming an issue among them. And I just wondered if there's been any discussion about this bill coming in and how that might, the work you're doing here across licensing generally might also intersect with the schools that we have.
If I can take that away into our meetings with our public health colleagues and sort of pose the question in that forum, and we'll talk about that and how we could maybe take that forward.
Thank you. Do I have anything more from the floor? I think, Rachel and Town Clerk, we might make a note. I think I might reach out to the chairs of the other two committees at some stage and just have a word with them myself to make sure that we do as much integration and working together as opposed to outside a silo as possible on this. So if you could just nudge me when you think it might be an appropriate time, I'd appreciate it. Yeah, you approve of that idea, members, that we should have worked with the other committees to make sure. Yep, good. Town Clerk, thank you.
Thank you. Next at item 7, we have the late night levy 12-month report, 1st October 2024 to 30th September 2025. This is for information at page 43 of your agenda pack.
Again, I'm sure you've all read this. I don't think there's anything new. Would you like to give Aggie a very brief intro, and then I'll say something as well, and then we'll finish up.
Yes, certainly, Chair. It's an annual report. This particular one sets out how Year 11 late night levy income has been spent across the City of London Corporation and City of London Licensing Police. There's a minor change. There was a query raised last year or last committee about the uplift in the administrative costs that hadn't been reviewed for a number of years. So we've taken, we've started a review of what it's costing the licensing service to recover the fees, to collect the late night levy and enforce the late night levy. So we've put in an estimate figure of 25 to 35,000 and uplifted the administrative costs this year, and that's set out on page 45 of the agenda. It's an estimate at this point because we haven't had a full year of late night levy since the query was raised. So we've started that review from October 25 through to September 26, but we've based that guesstimate on the previous 12 months.
Thank you. Now, I believe there's an underspend of 77,000 there.
There is, the City Corporation does have an underspend of 77,000. There is year on year we've been chipping away at it. Yeah,
we're holding that as a balance. We are spending a little bit more than our income every year to chip away at the 77,000. So I'm content with that. But I am reaching out to Port Health specifically to find out if there are any real hotspots at night time where there's the unfortunate urination and defecation, which we all absolutely hate, to see if we might be able to use a small amount of that underspend to improve what goes on in those hotspots, perhaps CCTV, perhaps signage, I don't know. I'm open to ideas, but if you're happy with me reaching out to them, I think it would be useful to spend a little bit on that, because certainly as far as I'm concerned, that's what my constituents come back to me more than anything else that troubles them about our late night hospitality. So are you content to me to reach out on that? Thank you, members. So this is to, yeah, so that's fine. Thank you. Anything else? Anybody like to say anything? No, great stuff. Thank you, Town Clerk.
Thank you. Next at item 8, we have the licensing reforms. This is a report for information on page 55 of your agenda.
And again, here there are changes, so Maggie, over to you again. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. The report provides an overview of recent government licensing reforms. Specifically in this paper, we've covered the publication of a national licensing policy framework, the Mayor of London's strategic licensing pilot, and the proposal to introduce a Greater London strategic licensing policy. By way of background, a sprint task force was established by the government in April 2025 to identify areas of concern in the hospitality industry and any burdens that were being posed by the Licensing Act. And the task force came up with several recommendations, including but not limited to the 3 in this report, and one of those being the review of Licensing Act fees. But those are the other ones have will be progressed, but these 3 have actually been progressed to the next stage by the government. So following the government's call for evidence last October, they published the National Licensing Policy Framework as part of their autumn budget in November 25. The framework is a non-statutory guidance that's to be read alongside the Licensing Act, the statutory Section 182 guidance to the Act, and the City of London Statement of Licensing Policy. The framework doesn't override any of those statutory duties or the City of London's ability to determine each application on its own merits, but it does place a new legal duty on us as a licensing authority to have regard to the framework when determining applications and when reviewing our licensing policy. So the framework maintains the primacy of the 4 licensing objectives whilst promoting economic growth, high street regeneration and cultural vitality. It reinforces proportionate evidence-led decision making, and it encourages collaboration between licensing and key stakeholders to unlock investment in the nighttime economy. So paragraphs 12 and 13 of the report at pages 58 to 59 of the agenda set out the key principles for licensing authorities and what they're expected to do. And for the City Corporation, this means taking into consideration the framework when we come to reviewing our statement of licensing policy, work for which will commence this month, with the first report being brought back to this committee in May. The current statement of licensing policy is largely consistent with the framework in that it doesn't have framework hours, it doesn't have cumulative impact zones, and our approach to conditions is proportionate to the operating model of individual premises. As part of the wider policy review, we'll also take into consideration the City Corporation's traffic light scheme, which is our risk-based regulation tool. And this is already, again, largely consistent with the National Licensing Policy Framework, but we could improve it and align it better with the framework, perhaps in reducing the time period in which we report, or perhaps reintroducing credits for remedial measures that have been implemented by licensees. And again, any proposals for change will be reported back to this committee in due course. Moving on to the Mayor of London's strategic licensing pilot. This is subject to legislative change, but when implemented, it will give the Mayor of London call-in powers on local licensing decisions in what they will define as strategic areas. So potentially overriding licensing authority decisions. But only where such mayoral intervention is permitted. There's still very little detail on how the pilot will work and what areas will be scoped in. But where calling powers are enabled, this would impact local decision making. The GLA has just this week published its 50-page task force report, which has only just landed with us, so we haven't had an opportunity to read it and sort of understand the impacts within it, but we will circulate it to members, and officers will analyse and report its findings to this committee at the May meeting. And then finally, the Mayor of London's strategic licensing policy. There's a proposal to introduce a London-wide licensing standard to improve consistency in how authorities apply the Licensing Act across the board and within their areas. This also requires legislative change, and when implemented, licensing authorities will be expected to have regard to the London policy. So in effect, there'll be a hierarchy of policy to be applied, starting with the statutory Section 182 guidance at the top, City of London local licensing policy, which again is a statutory policy. Then there is the National Licensing Policy Framework, which is non-statutory, but we must have regard to, or should have regard to it as an expectation. And then there will be the London Strategic Policy, which will be statutory and we must have regard to. And so I guess the task will be to align all of those and have a golden thread across all policies.
Thank you, Aggie. Labyrinthine, to put it lightly, but there is a bright side. I read the guidance from central government, and I thought, my goodness me, our officers could have written this. And I believe Aggie separately decided to run our policy against the guidelines through AI, and there was the difference was the pag paper. So we are certainly, over the years, we have done well enough, officers, members, all the rest of it, to strategically think very, very similarly to where the government's thinking. So there won't be too much work or change necessary, certainly for a large amount of this. The amount of information we've got so far from the Mayor of London, as Aggie said, is very limited, but it appears that we are going to be in a better place. And yes, let's receive a report on that in May. So really, that's where we are. I can see nothing more than we can do at the moment than just follow up with what we're doing. And it's going to be hard work again. But members, have you got any comments on this? No? Okay. Thank you. Town Clerk.
Thank you. Next at item 9, we have the delegated decisions of the Executive Director Environment pertaining to premises licenses. This is for information, page 79 of your agenda.
Robert, are you going to do this? Or again, then we should. Yeah, Robert's going to do it.
Yes, yeah, I can do. I mean, there's nothing out of the ordinary in it. The report itself has been evolving over the last months and years, and we've added various bits with regard to Appendix 3 with the addition of enforcement information and also results of enforcements that have gone to prosecution. But yeah, happy to take any questions on it.
Well, I'd like you, if possible, to take this opportunity to update the committee on what's been going on with Proud.
Yes, absolutely. Proud. The landlords have taken the premises back, so they've formally had a repossession order signed off by the High Court. That was about 2 weeks ago, and we got notification last week that the locks have been changed. So Proud, the license remains live at the moment because it's not been surrendered, and the company we haven't received any notification that the company's insolvent. So the license holder. So the license remains live, but Proud are not in a position to use the premises going forward. I understand they've opened a new premises in Mayfair actually, but which so I think a lot of the events from the city venue has moved to that new venue.
Thank you. Any questions from the floor, members? No, thank you.
Thank you. Next at item 10, we have a verbal update regarding fire safety.
Yes, this is quite important because of the tragic events in Switzerland, and Rachel has done some work on it and would like to report to you about it. So thank you. Over to you, Rachel.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, just to update members. So following the tragic fire in Crans, Montana at the New Year, colleagues across London Fire Brigade, City of London Police, Environmental Health and Licensing have met and sort of strengthened our partnership. And what we're proposing really is a series of multi-agency inspections across the city's licence trade over the coming months. So those inspections will assess the premises fire risk assessments, the controls. It will cover areas such as ignition sources, means of escape, fire exits, flammable linings and decorations. London Fire Brigade have been extremely helpful to us. They're providing all our partner regulators with training and upskilling in relation to fire safety. And briefings are proposed at the twice yearly police licensing forum. So that'll be direct to the trade at those times. We're also looking at writing a letter to all our venues, just sort of outlining the basic requirements that we would expect of them. So we're really grateful to LFB for sharing their expertise with us in relation to this really important matter. And hopefully we'll get a good view on the city, its standards, and anything we need to do to move that forwards in the Square Mile.
Thank you, and congratulations on being proactive on this. Very important and well done. Members, have you got any more comments on this? Yes, Joanna.
No, just to say well done. I'm pleased to hear that we've done that. And will you give us updates on how you're progressing at each of the meetings?
Yeah, we can do. Yeah.
Right, Town Clerk.
Thank you. Next at item 11, we have questions on matters relating to the work of the committee.
Any have we?
No, we haven't.
On the floor, do you have any questions? No, thank you. Town Clerk.
Thank you. Next at item 12, we have any other business that the chairman considers urgent.
Yes, I have two items I'd like to bring to you. The first one was yesterday we had an application which was going to be heard by James Tunbridge, the Deputy Chairman, was going to be chair of the subcommittee with myself and Brendan about Eden, an application from them. I'm not going to go into the application, but it was postponed, was set aside we're going to reconvene it, but was postponed for a number of reasons. One reason was applicable to all applications, so it's nothing to do with this particular one, and it concerned the late arrival of evidence, because we, the members of the subcommittee, were getting evidence literally the evening before the hearing on the next day. As a result, the three of us have asked officers to go away and to prepare a paper to bring to committee, giving timings by which evidence has to be in before subcommittees. So, for example, 10 days before, but allowing discretionary powers so that if there is an event that is very important that occurs within the 10-day period, it can be brought at the discretion of the subcommittee, just so this doesn't happen again, and we, the members of subcommittee, have time to take in all the evidence to make their decisions properly. So really just reporting on that, and that's an item that will be coming to committee maybe in May. Yeah, lovely. Lovely, thank you. That's the first one. The second one, just to report on the dinner, which is amazing, a month away. Time just flies, doesn't it? As you should have received your invitations now. I hope many of you as possible going to come. As you know, it has to be outside the city. You can't have it in the city because it's licensing, but it's in the Whitechapel Art Gallery. Lovely place. The guest speaker is Gareth Hughes, who's a solicitor at Keystone, but he's a great raconteur. And he has a really, really in-depth knowledge of government legislation that's coming up. So I'm sure he will speak really well. Rachel and myself had lunch with him, and it was a very entertaining lunch, I can assure you. And we're also going to have some musicians from Brentwood School, some children, young grown-ups actually, talented, giving us some music during the reception period. I think we've pretty much got everything in place except for the menu, which I'll be looking at shortly. So I hope to see as many of you there as possible. As hosts, there are many guests, so thank you for that. So that's what I have to report, Town Clerk, so we can move on.
Chair. We now move to item 13, which is exclusion of the public. Does the committee agree to exclude the public for the remaining items of business?
Yes, I just had a point on.
Please, sorry, Joanna.
It was just on the licensing point with the hearings.
Oh yes.
It was just to check as well on any conflicts, like well ahead of time. So if it would appear, or you think there's potential for a conflict of interest between the person that's hearing and who we're hearing, that's just checked in enough time as well.
Yeah, whether or not that's part of the paper, I'm not sure, but that certainly, you brought that up. That was another issue that came to light yesterday. So yeah, we'll think about that and how we deal with that in the future. But thank you for bringing it up, Joanna. Appreciate it.
Please, thank you. Just back to item 13, so exclusion of the public. Does the committee agree to exclude the public for the remaining items of business? Thank you. I'll just wait a moment while I end the live stream. Thank you. Apologies, members. I'm still just waiting for our IT to confirm that the live stream has ended.